Greetings to the Waukesha community and the Waukesha School Board. I am just getting ready to share my slide deck here. This presentation slide deck is for an upcoming meeting on July 12th of the Teaching and Learning Board meeting. And I'm now sharing my screen, which 12 minutes ago I just talked to nothing. So that was a good trial run. But my name is Jody Landish. I'm Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, and I'm providing this update this month from the perspective of three areas. This was a request from Mr. Zenobia that we give an update in the following areas. That would be common school funding, the classroom libraries audit, and our processes for library book notifications. So I'm just going to get into the slideshow, and I do see I am now sharing my screen, which is a good thing. So this is the third update this year on these topics. I did look back and see that we did update the community in September, and we also shared some updates in February. So I'm proud to offer some updates here in July as well. So as we start, I'd like to first talk to you about the area of our common school funding. The chart in front of you really just shows our history and the 5-year trend in terms of our expense breakdown and expenditures that were allocated from the common school funding bucket. One of the questions that was brought up recently was why so much carryover had occurred from one year to the next. And I was able to obtain information about that, and I just wanted to provide some clarity to you about that. You can see in the year 2019-20, during the pandemic, there was a one-time issuance of supplemental aid that was given to school districts across the state of Wisconsin because of the pandemic. This was to help bolster libraries and their online resources to provide to students that were because we were in shutdown mode. So you can see we had a substantial amount of carryover because that was given relatively late to us in the year, and therefore was not able to be spent in an intentional way. But you can see pre-pandemic, we didn't have any carryover usually or annually. And you can see now coming out of the post-pandemic, we're becoming relatively stable, except for this year. As you can see, we have a $60,000 carryover, and that is directly related to supply chain issues. This next slide here really shows you an example of the issues that we have had with backlogs of shipments and sometimes our orders not being filled at all. So in the left-hand column, you'll see what would be like a purchase requisition total amount. And then in the right-hand column, you'll actually see the amount of the order that was actually paid, because that is the amount that was fulfilled in the order. So you can definitely see there's some huge discrepancies at times with different vendors in terms of what we want to purchase and what we are actually getting. So that gives you an idea of sometimes the why around the reasoning that there is carryover at different times. I'd also like to go back to this expense breakdown and just have you look at the bottom chart. You know, sometimes when we hear that we get, you know, $500 and some $1,000 for common school funding, we might just automatically think we're purchasing just books after books after books for our libraries. And as you can see, I just want you to focus on the 21-22 breakdown. When you look at the percentages of what the money is spent on, you can see, for example, this year we spent 51% of our total allocation on software. And so just to give you an example, like our software Destiny that we use for our library software system, that's about around $26,000 that we paid this year from the common school funding that is spent on that online warehousing system. So if you look at the second highest percentage of what we're spending the common school funding monies on, it would be just library books in general. So almost 41% of the total allocation is spent on library books. So if you think about a system that is as large as Waukesha is, 41% is about $245,000 total. And so if you were to break that down by school, and granted, I know it doesn't work that clean, but you can estimate that, about each of our schools would have just over $10,000 to be able to purchase books for their libraries. Again, if it was equally distributed over all 23 schools. So that gives you an idea of the overall common school funding, as well as expenditures and carryover, and the why around purchases and expenditures. So the next item I would like to give you an update on is our classroom libraries. And especially if you have students in the secondary classrooms, you may or may not know this was going on this year. So we spent a very intense and pretty labor intensive process, but are proud of all the work of our staff in terms of auditing our ELA classrooms at the secondary level. And so that is now complete. So teachers currently and expected in the fall are to be posting their comprehensive book spreadsheets by title to their class syllabus and to their Blackboard accounts. So all parents will have easy access to those book lists for each of those classroom teachers. It's also the expectation that any other books now coming into the system will be added by the teachers to their spreadsheets and uploaded and updated. And so this is an expectation that the district has put forth for all of our teachers. And I just want to continue to remind everyone that we are guided by policy on this. And so we're going to be talking about at July's meeting also the policy 2240 around controversial issues. And so just pulling a line from that, we state that any material that has contents or content or a manner of presentation that could be controversial should be approved by the principal prior to use or purchase. And so we'll continue to be guided by that policy and move forth with our decision making and onboarding of books into classrooms following that policy. There were some definite themes from the audit at the secondary level that I wanted to share with you, kind of bucketed into four themes, if you will. We definitely need to increase our level of nonfiction in our libraries because currently the balance of fiction versus nonfiction was definitely off. The number of books provided from classroom to classroom really varied greatly, and we're looking to systematize this to level the playing field, right? We don't want one classroom library to have 10 books and then another classroom library to have 1,000 books. The third theme we noticed was that the classroom libraries offered a variety of perspectives and narratives. However, there needs to be more balance in this area. And when you say, well, what does balance mean? I'm going to talk about that in just the next slide. And then the last theme that came out was that some of our classroom libraries contained outdated materials and appeared to just be kind of like curations of old textbooks and things like that. While other libraries were really well maintained, they were vibrant, they truly appeared to be a central part of the teaching and learning environment. And so we want to make sure, again, that that is consistent and we can level up the playing field to increase the joy of reading for all students in our system. Again, the balance, because we use this word a lot, and I just want to be clear about what we mean when we talk about our expectation for balance. We want to have a balance of fiction versus nonfiction texts. We want to have a variety of genres. We want to have a multitude of perspectives. We want a range and age of books in the collection. And we want to have representation of a variety of authentic characters and voices. So these are some of the things we mean when we say we need better balance. And these are the things that we're going to be actively working towards. So besides that, some additional action steps that we are working with are we will continue to make sure that all secondary teachers post their book lists and know what the expectations are moving forward. We know that through, good intentions, donations, grants, et cetera, over time that we had what we had in terms of a variety of accessible materials for our students. And so we're proud of the fact that we now have a baseline and have a record keeping system of this. And we will continue to have that solidified moving forward. We will have professional learning with staff on what classroom libraries should include. And this will happen in August during our Summer Institute. And then we're going to take next steps at the elementary level with 3 of our elementary schools this summer, Prairie, Hillcrest, and Meadowbrook, as we begin this process at the elementary level. So lastly, I'd just like to move on to library books. As you know, mid-year, we instituted a parent notification system in place for any library book checked out in the system. And we are really pleased with that process. I don't know if parents are pleased or not, but they certainly can opt out of it if they don't like to be notified. But we like to, obviously, we have kept that notification in place for most and many parents. At the start of every school year, our librarians send out how families can access their students' checkout history for both not just hard copies in the library, but their digital access as well. We'll continue to communicate on how parents can access Blackboard through their book titles, especially at the secondary level. And I just really want to emphasize that it's so important. I think we have some really positive momentum going, both with our parents and with our teachers. And so I really want to emphasize how important it is that parents, teachers, school librarians, that we all continue to work together to promote the joy of reading in each and every student that we serve. So with that said, that concludes the library presentation and discussion update. I am going to try to stop sharing my screen. And again, these 3 bucketed areas, I hope gave you a really high level overview of some of the things that we're proud of that we've put into place into Waukesha. You should feel very proud about our progress, and I look forward to working with everyone to continue with the transparency and trust that we're building, because it takes community for the success of each and every one of our students. So thank you for previewing this video. I look forward to answering any questions and talking with you further about this at our July 12th Teaching and Learning Board meeting. Go Waukesha.